to start today. Great to see people here and see the people at home. We know it's a little scary today, so thanks for being online. Thanks for coming to church today.
Quality, not quantity.
And I have given Tim the birds talk, so we know more birds will be arriving shortly, we hope. All right, this morning we are so lucky to have Tim Bates, who is one of the founders of the Duluth Folk School, with us. I've always been fascinated by the idea of the folk school, and I think of it kind of as a junior version of the Grand Marais Folk School. I think he'll tell us if that's what we're supposed to be thinking, but I thought I would read you what it said in the newsletter about this, because Tim wrote this and I think it's very interesting. He said he was one of the founders of the Duluth Folk School, and today we're going to talk about what they do and everything, but he said he's going to tell us about how it progressed from working out of the trunk of a car traveling around Duluth to programming in the Lincoln Park building. Now, has everybody here been at least in the Duluth Folk School, the Dovetail Kit? No, we have someone back. Oh, you're going to have to tell them about it. So this whole idea of what it is and the specialness of it, he's going to tell us about this. And I will just tell you that another thing that fascinates me is he says he's been an avid woodworker and builder since he was a very young age, and I want to know what the very first thing that he built was. Anyway, would you give him a little encouragement here?
I'm going to do the switcheroo. Say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Okay. All right. That's always the problem.
Thank you, Sally. That was wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for coming out on what might be a snowy Sunday. And actually, I hope it's snowy. Some of you might not, but if you have been out in the woods lately, it's crispy dry, and we need the moisture for sure. But today I'm here to talk about the Duluth Folk School. And I'll start off by talking a little bit about me. If Sally wants to know the first thing I made, I can't recall for sure. I grew up in a family where my father was a carpenter. So as a carpenter's son, I wasn't the one making hardly anything, but I was the one handing the tools and cleaning up and being the helper all along the way. And along that journey, back in those days, carpenters didn't make lots of money, so you make do, you fix things, and it's not just wood things, but everything. And it kind of instilled upon me the opportunity that we can have to use what we were given as talents as humans, and I think this is innate to everybody, that we are here in this place and time as a result of having the ability to manipulate our world with our hands and our minds and our bodies, and to create and have forward thinking and connect with each other to accomplish many things. And I think we've gotten to a point, though, where the opportunity to use our bodies fully, our minds fully, and be creative and solve problems revolves primarily around this and this. Now, yes, there's a lot of people out there that are doing hands-on types of things, but there's a lot that aren't, and they're coming to realize, I'd love to learn how to do some things, or I've never had the opportunity to do things. And so the seed of creating the Duluth Folk School came about of looking at society. Quite often, it's changed a little bit lately, but when the ideas started to first come around, is that working with our hands was lesser. So in schools, shop class and what we all knew as home economics and things like that kind of got pushed aside as lesser for other things, and other things are very important, but the lesser isn't really lesser, it's just different. And so we said, let's try to change this community, Duluth, the Twin Ports, and all the surrounding areas, and do something about this. And so I'll tell the whole story of the journey and how we came to be where we're at and where we're going into the future. And I encourage, if you have questions, plug them into your brain, or maybe even, I'm okay if you ask them as we're going through these things, but there'll be an opportunity for questions when we're done. Another piece about my life, so growing up, making and helping, but also as I left to go to college and such, I continued doing things like that. Everything from making canoe paddles to building houses. But my life is in outdoor and environmental education. And so I've spent my career just over here at UMD helping people understand what's going on out there and how they can be stewards of what's going on out there. And so I'm still in that world, but I'm in this other world of helping people be stewards of themselves and their community in a little bit of a different way. And so you can see our mission there. The Duluth Folk School builds community through joyful experiences of handcrafting, art, and gatherings. And this is the end product of a long strategic planning process that we finished a little over a year ago. We want people to realize that doing things, one, is fun. Doing things in community really helps the community, but it also helps take care of the world around us. And so let's explore this a little bit. So this is what we're going to talk about today: who we are, where we are, what we do, and what the future looks like for this organization. I'm going to get my clock right here. So, as I said, this was kind of an interesting photograph in our current building, but these three people are the founders of the Duluth Folk School. On the left, I'm assuming it's not mirrored for you. Yep. On the left is a fellow named Brian French. In the middle is a woman named Carmel Di Mayoribus, and then myself. And the other people are just people in the cafe. And this was done by an artistic photographer, and he had it set up kind of strange like this, and he wanted us to have sort of a grim look on our face. Even though we're about doing joyful stuff, interesting image. But we came together. Brian and I first started the ball rolling on this project, and we said, let's make this happen. We created sort of a business plan, meeting at the Caribou Coffee Shop over at Mount Royal for a number of years, and got to the point where, okay, we've got a few folks that are interested in teaching. Where are we going to do this? And so that process was a matter of, okay, we're going to work out of a trunk and go wherever we can find space where we can teach for free or use the space for free. So that included Hartley Nature Center. That included the Lester Park Chalet, or what used to be where the hockey rinks were up the Seven Bridges Road, etc. So we were floating around and having people teach classes, and everything was out of a trunk. And I'll explain how we got into our building, but the who we are from the get-go, it wasn't about us. It's not these three people and, hey, this is ours, and we're going to make the world change. It's about all the people that came together to help build this thing that we call the Duluth Folk School. So we have community members that are teaching. This is Patty, who is retired now, but teaches various types of felting. We have people that are interested in tools but learning as well. So we have instructors, we have participants, And we have what I'll call the environment where we blend everything together. So this is Elena teaching birch bark stars, but using natural resources and the variety of things that we have in our community to help do what I was explaining of getting people hands-on. So it's not about the 3 people that I brought this together. It's about the twin ports. And so originally, to be honest, we started as an LLC, a for-profit business, because we thought, well, we're not in this to make money, but we would like to have an organization that can be nimble and we just make decisions and do things and not go to the board. And over time, we realized, yeah, we can be more nimble and we can be quicker, but legally we can't have volunteers. IRS says people cannot volunteer for for-profit businesses. People aren't interested in donating money to for-profit businesses, and you can't get grants as a for-profit business. But we're not in this for money. And so we switched gears and became a nonprofit a number of years ago. And so now we're slowly rebuilding, or we're re-envisioning what this organization looks like to meet all these community needs. And this is a statement that one of our previous staff put together, that everyone is a teacher, everyone is a student, we all benefit from each other's wisdom. And so I clearly remember in my career as an outdoor educator, somebody gave me a quote, and it may have been from Abraham Lincoln, it may have been from somebody else, but something to the effect of, I've never met someone I cannot learn from. And so there's always this opportunity for us to learn from each other, and that's part of what the Folk School is about, bringing people together to learn from each other, and we're all in this together. And we have a lot of times we have community events that are happening. So this is an image of folk dancing. We have folk dancing 2 times a month on Saturday evenings. If you like folk dancing, come on down and join us. But bringing people together can be very powerful. It's not just about learning how to do things with the hands, but learning in community. So where we are. So most of you have been to our facility. And you can see in the image there, we're kind of sort of in the middle of that and on a beautiful sunset. When we went from hauling around Rubbermaid bins of supplies to various places, we rented a place down the street in Lincoln Park because we thought, where in Duluth is centrally located for people to easily access? And at the time, where can they park easily? But it's also on a bus line, it's also on bike line routes. And we thought, we need to be in Lincoln Park. It's a good place. And it's also a place where that's kind of economically depressed. How can we potentially help in that? It's actually the most economically depressed part of our city. There's like 80, well, maybe not this block, but Lincoln Park as a neighborhood. Approximately 80% of people that live in Lincoln Park do not have a vehicle. You know, most of us have vehicles parked in our driveways, but 80%. Yes. So they have to rely on bus transportation. They have to rely on bicycles. They have to rely on their legs to get somewhere. So we rented a place down the street and we're like, this isn't good enough because we can't make it ours. We want to find a place where we can make it ours and give it what I'll call our vibe, the feeling that you get when you come in the door. And so we landed on this building that you see here, but it's also seen here. You can maybe make out, and I'll point out to the audience that's here. Oh, it doesn't shine on there. Right there is what's known as the Minnesota Tea Company. So we found a building for sale called the Minnesota Tea Company, And that Minnesota Tea Company building was built in 1915. And it's kind of fun to try to find some of the history of the place. It was pretty sad when we got there. And when we got there, and I've got thousands of photos of what we did to the place, but I'm just going to show you a few. The building inside, most recently it was used as a political call center. So back in the day when you got a phone call at dinner time saying, what's your thoughts on such and such? And we don't know for a fact, but it's our estimation that they went out of business or just closed up shop when the do not call lists were created. Well, that was 2 or 3 years before we got on the scene, and they literally walked out the door and didn't tell the building owners. And the building froze because the heat went out. And so come sometime in spring, the sprinkler system was spraying water, and we met a fireman who was one of the first on the scenes, and he said the water was pouring out the front door, and there was 4 feet of water in the basement. And so we took this building that was super sad and started gutting it, and taking plaster off the walls and getting rid of the drop ceiling and reinvigorating the tin ceiling. And it was a labor of love, but we also wanted to show that regular people can do it, because it was really these 3 people up here doing a lot of the work, plus a number of volunteers, plus a couple hired carpenters. So we refinished the floors, and you can see in the middle there's chunks of plywood. That's where the floors buckled from the sprinkler system that blew. And there was carpet glue all over the floors, and it took literally 4 months of solid work to get the carpet glue off the wood floor, with little wallpaper steamers steaming it, and then using an ice scraper to scrape it off, and then dump it in a bucket. Crazy, but it's beautiful. Now it's beautiful maple flooring that we have been so fortunate to have in this building. So it was built really well. And we thought, well, how do we break up this really large space? So we built a log cabin in the building. So some of you have seen the log cabin. And along this journey, we've always thought, well, can we pair classes and community building and food somehow? And that's where the idea of the cafe came about. And so many of you hopefully have eaten there or had coffee there. The food is very good, but when we start to bring all these pieces together, that's what this place is. And everybody tells us when they walk in the door that when I said the vibe is very good. Everybody loves going in the building. And so how do we break this up and make it more comfortable and have a great vibe? I'm not going to showcase to you the building today. I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to plant that seed if you haven't been there, to get down there and have breakfast, or go for coffee, or go for beer in the evening. But it's that fellowship of people around food, around creativity, around community. So what do we do in this organization? There's a lot of things that go on in addition to the few things that I've described. And this is a really busy image of all the elements, and I'm going to go through all of these different elements of what we do. We do weekly events. So some of you have been down for Thursday night lecture type programs. And so there are things put on by the city of Duluth that we partner with. One is called, I think it's called Sustainable Duluth. I don't have the zillion things memorized of what we got going on. We have Lyceum programs. We have other lecture programs. We partner with Equilibrium 3 on some programs. There are the dances twice a month. There are craft nights on Friday evenings. And And so there's all these different weekly things that are going on that are, hey, come on in, there's no charge, come and join us, have fun, and make connection with other people. There are classes, and this is kind of what most people think of when they think of a folk school, because they think of like North House. I'm going to go online, sign up for a class, and it's a week long, or it's 2 days, or whatever it might be, and I'm going to learn how to build a boat or build a shed or whatever. And we have those kinds of things. The thing that makes us different than North House is we strive for instructors that are from the Twin Ports area, and we strive to deliver programming in a way for people that live in the Twin Ports area that can participate. So if you go to North House, you can really learn how to build a canoe in a, let's call it a 10-day class. If we offered that same class in Duluth, we probably would offer it on a lot of evenings or on weekends so that regular people it's more accessible to them. Because if you go to Grand Marais, then you have to find lodging, you have to find food, etc. So we're in the Twin Ports and about the Twin Ports. And, yes, we have participants that come from farther away, and that we're not going to turn them away, but that's kind of the world of classes. We also do community events. We don't do a lot of them, but it's how can we do things outside our building to bring people together. One of which is, this is an example we called at the time, the Rabine Rendezvous. Rabine canoes were built in Duluth. They're wood canoes, wood canvas and wood fiberglass canoes. We're going to build on that, and this fall, the plan is to have a wooden canoe rendezvous up at Boulder Lake, in partnering with the Boulder Lake Environmental Learning Center, where people that are aficionados of wood canoes or want to be or want to learn can go and hop in a wood canoe. I mean, Boulder Lake has 24-foot long wood canoes that they can stick, I think, about 8 people in. Super stable, and they're a lot of fun. So community events, let's bring people together around some subject. And the final piece that is a key part of what we're doing is fostering growth and holding up the people that are in our community that are crafters, whether they're teaching for us or whether they're making amazing things in our community. And one of the pieces of this journey that has been the most amazing to me is what people in Duluth are doing that's super creative. I mean, the person that restores canoes over here, and then the person that's making stained glass kinds of things over there. And a lot of them are doing it in their homes, or it may be a hobby, or it may be their profession. But this opportunity has really raised my awareness of all the amazing things that are happening. And I think it's part of the role of the folk school to help them learn how to share their skills and knowledge, but also to help them survive. Because without those kind of people in our community, we're a less of a community. And an example might be, just the other day, we needed a sign fixed, and one of our people said, oh yeah, there's a neon sign person in Duluth. And I'm like, oh really? Got a sign fixed at the neon sign guy that's up on the end of Woodland. I don't know his business name, but there's all kinds of these things that are going on throughout our city. And let's bring those people together, help them sell their wares, but also help support each other. Bad slide. So where are we going? The Duluth Folk School is this, we've got our classic nonprofit board, and we have probably 100 plus instructors that have taught with us over the years. And if you come down to the building, you'll see right now we have ribbons, little cards on rope or cord that dangles from the ceiling, and every one of those is a class that we've offered over the years, because this whole journey started in 2016, so it's not that long ago. And it's pretty amazing to see all the people that have come together to teach and all the different topics that they've taught. But we're always looking for new people to teach interesting and amazing things, because we can't, let's say Tom was teaching something. We can't say, Tom, every 2 months, could you teach something? So we want to spread out the load a little more. So part of that is we're looking for instructors in the future. We're looking for volunteers to do everything from host a class, which is, Sally's teaching the class and Tom comes in and he hosts, and he's part of the folk school and welcomes the audience like Sally just did for this event, and represents the organization during a class in case help was needed or something went wrong. So that's kind of the entry level volunteers, but we also have tasks for people that are into building things or people into making things. So that's one of the things for your future. And the final, it looks like I may have got these out of order. Oh, one of the images is missing. Okay. One of the other things that we're working on, so we love Lincoln Park, but we've come to realize our building is not big enough for all that we would like to do. The cafe is super popular. So if we were offering a class this morning in our main hall, what we call our main hall, it wouldn't work because it's crazy busy from the cafe. The noise, there's too much competing noise. We have a classroom space upstairs that we call the library. It works, but it's upstairs and it's small. So we would like to expand, and we've explored lots of different ideas. We're working on ideas potentially partnering with other organizations in town. But one of our dreams has been, how do we take this model, and it's common elsewhere because there's folk schools all over the world, actually, but to have our Lincoln Park campus, but also a rural campus. Our pipe dream is to find an old farm that we can incorporate everything from how to do gardening to how to take that tree in the forest and turn it into a chair, to having a building that's the metal shop kind of place for forging, people that are forging, and having a building for the fiber arts people, and having a woodworking shop, and having barn dances in a barn. Will we ever achieve our pipe dream? I'm not sure. But if you know of anybody that has an old farm that's not that far from Lincoln Park, because our dream is then we have a shuttle vehicle to bring people out to this site. Because I said we want to be on a bus line. Well, a rural spot that isn't on a bus line, but we can create our bus line. So I encourage you to be part of our community and get involved with the folk school somehow. You could participate, you could go to the cafe, you could contribute, you could volunteer, and enjoy the community that we're building down there, not that far away. So once again, the slides are kind of chopped up, but it does say questions, and for more information, the website is duluthfolkschool.org, or you can go duluthfolkschool.com. Yes?
I was just wondering, if you keep statistics on how many residents from the neighborhood in Lincoln Park participate at the folk school?
We have done a very poor job of tracking where participation comes from. And quite frankly, when we want to pay an instructor an appropriate pay, which our hope is to not demean people that make things by saying, will you volunteer to teach? Because when was the last time you asked your auto mechanic to volunteer to fix your car or teach you how to fix your car? So we want to be able to pay instructors. That quite often puts the price tag out of the range of people that are in that neighborhood. And so our hope is to get to the point where we can have scholarship of some sort for people that are struggling financially. We have done some grant programming for youth that is specifically for the Lincoln Park neighborhood. But for the regular class that any one of us might sign up for, quite often it is out of their price range. So that's a very good question, but we're striving to fix that.
I have an online question
Yes.
for you. This is from Brett Cease, also on our forums committee, and he is asking, how many folk schools are there in Minnesota, and is there a shared network you use to collaborate and share instructors?
Okay, very good question. There are only a few that are kind of at the level that are regularly offering programming. There's approximately 6 in Minnesota, some of which are their geographic distance from Duluth is significant. So really the places that we collaborate with most is the Ely Folk School, because they're our closest neighbor. There are some down near the cities. There's a new one in Warroad, but nationally there's an organization called the Folk School Alliance, and so one of our board members, one of the founders, Brian, was on the board of that, and so it's a sharing. But as I said, for instructors, our hope is to try to keep it local as much as possible. So if Ely has somebody, maybe we'll invite somebody from Ely, but the realization is, part of that is, well, then we got to pay them to come here, mileage and lodging, and so that raises the price. And does that make it accessible to the people of the Duluth area? And our sense is, let's try to keep it local as much as possible.
So I'm just full of gratitude for the work that you have done in your organization and the mission that you've outlined, especially the community connection. And so
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for that. I am curious about what there is in your organization that deals with music. You said that there were dances,
Yep.
and it sounds like your focus is really about making things with one's hands, but I'm wondering about that.
So the music piece is primarily revolved around individuals that are connected to the Tamarack Dance Association. We partner with Tamarack Dance, and I'm horrible at remembering names, but I know Kyle Orla and Terrence, he's the Pied Piper. They have jam sessions prior to every one of the dance nights. And so what's really been fun is those have been growing phenomenally, where a lot of people come in, and it's mostly around folk music. And in the past, we have had sessions where we've had people that have done community sings, where we figure out a way to pay them to coordinate to have a community sing, and those have been very well received and a lot of fun. The making of musical instruments has been kind of minimal, because typically it's pretty complicated, and like I said, one of the things that we don't have in our facility, our building is needs to be like this multi-use space. So you have to bring your tools and equipment in, and then you have to take your tools and equipment out when you're done. One of our hopes is to have that space where we can just use and make a mess and come back tomorrow and make more of a mess and come back the next day and make more of a mess. We don't have that right now, but someday we'll get to making musical instruments, but that's the extent of our music piece.
I want to say thank you too. It's been great. Dovetail, do they pay you rent then, or is that a source of income for you guys at
No.
the Dovetail?
The Dovetail pays rent to the building, to help cover building expenses. And I'll be honest out there right now, a cafe is not a moneymaker. Nobody's getting rich. Nobody's making it hardly anything other than, the staff are getting paid. But the Dovetail is essentially also a nonprofit. Legally, it's not a nonprofit, but it's acting as a nonprofit.
Its results are not.
Could you help me turn that over and make money? Seems to be making money. Just saying.
Yep. So our model for our cafe is different than a lot of other models, and our hope is to, one, pay our staff appropriately, but create an environment that they want to work there. And that's we're a little bit contrary to typical restaurateur kind of people, and it kind of kicks us in the pants once in a while, but we want to be a place where people are supported versus berated. Some of you watch TV shows where the owners or the visiting chef comes in and chews everybody out. We don't want to be that place.
It's an interesting little sidelight on the way here today. My wife informed me that Brian French was a past board member of the Unitarian presidency.
Oh.
So there are some ties here from Unitarianism. And I was wondering, do you work with churches or organizations like ours, which I guess isn't a church, but do you work with the projects that we could do or we could participate in, or
we would like to.
interact more?
We would like to make stronger connections to the local communities that are already intact, like yours. And so if the Unitarian congregation can support what we do, or we can come up with volunteer projects, or maybe there's classes that happen here somehow, we could make something happen. And that's part of my task, because I was a founder and I still work at UMD, but I decided we're in a little bit of a gap for a director, and I said I'd volunteer to be the director till we get other things in place, because I'd rather see some employees doing a lot of these things, and we're writing grants and we're seeking support in a variety of ways. And part of that is connecting with congregations, because it's a place where people come together that have a lot of skill and expertise in something. And like I said before, we all have something to share. Yes.
So I have another question from online, and it's a twofer. I'm sneaking my own question in here too. This is from Ron, and he wonders, are you going to offer bicycle maintenance courses? And then we were wondering in this section of the audience whether you also team up with the Duluth Makerspace. I think they're fairly close by. Is there some flow there?
So bike maintenance, our bike maintenance guy is one of my very good friends, and the other day he said, I got to get a bike maintenance class on. It's happening soon, and we also have another fella that works at Continental that he reached out and wants to maybe partner with Continental Bike and Ski and Zeitgeist and us to offer bike maintenance things. The other part of that might answer your question as well is, yes, we interact with Makerspace. They have a different mission. It's mostly around providing access to tools and equipment and space. But a really cool project that we're working on, and WSSD is playing a lead role on, is partnering between us, the Makerspace, and WSSD to do what elsewhere are called repair cafes or repair clinics, where you come down, and we're probably going to do them in our building, or we are going to do them in our building. You come down with something broken, and there will be expertise around to help you fix your toaster, or your vacuum cleaner, what's wrong, or your bike might need some help. And we're working on finalizing, this date are these kinds of fix-it things on this date, and that's going to start in June. And so that's going to be people from Makerspace, people from the folk school, and other volunteers doing some repair things, and with the ultimate motivation of keeping stuff out of the landfill and keep continuing to use it.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for presenting this to us. I just was thinking about the armory, and I don't know what that's morphed into,
Yeah.
but it's a large space. I know, like, the Fiber Arts Guild, I'm more involved with textiles, so
Yep.
the Fiber Arts Guild, they have looms, so they need a lot of space. Seems to me that's a multi-use type of building. I know you're looking for rural area, but just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, that we don't know what's going on with the armory, and we've actually, one of the organizations that we've interacted with the board with is the Forging Communities, which is right next to the armory, and they would like to be in the armory because they don't, they're in the old Perkins, but they don't even know what's going on in the armory, and the potential is the rent is going to be too expensive, and if we want to have classes halfway affordable, we can't have killer rent. And so the armory, I don't think is really on the table, but the fiber arts things, we've met with board members in the past, and part of it was, okay, let's work together if something ever comes about. And so that's still in the back of our minds, but we don't have a place to make it work. Because yes, looms are big and they take up a lot of space, and the Fiber Guild doesn't really have a home that's big enough to put everything out.
Mine is more a comment than a question, but I'm up in Grand Marais half the year and here the other school. And the feeling up in Grand Marais is very mixed about the folk school because it has become very expensive in news. And I would just so I would just say that the biggest mistake that the folk school has made, it looks like, is their location. They insisted on lakefront property and right off of 61, and it's just, they've created a great deal of hostility among local people. Where the hell are we going to park? There's no place to park for the restaurants and other buildings. So I hope you get a farm property that's not too far from town, but
yeah, great comment. Thank you.
Just 1 second. Caitlin back here, and then I'll come.
Hi, Tim. If people have a class they'd like to offer, whom do we contact?
So there are two people. One is Lindsay. She's kind of our administrative coordinator, and her gateway, it's just info@duluthfolkschool.com. It's easiest though just to go to the website, and there's an instructor information link, and you can get the email information there. Or contact me. I'm just tim@duluthfolkschool.com.
other than that, Tim, are the classes at the Duluth Folk School listed in the community ed publication?
No, so
What is your relationship with
good point.
community ed?
So we've been asked this a lot. Community ed, their programming is focused on learning a skill typically, and it's at a school building. And we early on we said, well, if community ed was really knocking it out of the park, we wouldn't need to exist. But part of what we're doing is trying to focus on the community piece of things, and it's okay to have a wine and watercolors class, or do some kind of different things. Some of our instructors are community ed instructors, but that's Duluth schools, and there's different constraints. We're trying to be more creative and community building than community ed is.
Obviously, you're giving a lot to think about here. We're gonna take one last question.
Okay.
So Tim, the armory
Mhm.
has some names, some known names of the people that are working on that. Are you not in relationship at all with those folks?
No, no.
Interesting. I think their focus is music.
Okay.
I know it is. And I went on a tour, an interior tour, within the past year, and it had been like 10 years since I'd been on a tour in there, and they are making progress.
Great.
So that's my impression, that sound to music technology as well as instruments and so forth. But I'm not an official messenger about that.
Yeah.
But I just threw away a business card last week, and I'm a little surprised that there's no communication.
Yeah.
A little disappointed.
And just in response to that, one of the things that I've come to realize is lately we've been putting so much energy into these things that are up. Oh, there's these weekly events, these classes, community events, and fostering growth, that we haven't got all of our tentacles out to everywhere that maybe we should. But that's a good point, and we'll explore that. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the great questions.
I am so glad you were here, because I think that's has such a wonderful feeling about it. You use the term vibe, and that's, I have been to political events there, where I go in there and I feel good. And it's a really nice feeling that you don't get a lot of places. So thank you for telling us about it. Obviously, I think people here are very interested. So watch your website.
Yep.
Tim's last name.
Bates, B-A-T-E-S.
Okay. All right, one more round of applause for Tim. And of course, I left my papers over there. I believe next week is the Superior Hiking Trail. Is that right? Yeah, we have, and so that's another area that I'm very interested in. I think all Unitarians are. So come back next week and you'll learn all about what's happening with the Superior Hiking Trail. Thanks so much.
And